Welcome back to another Design League playthrough, and this one is from abowidow. And as you can see, we're looking at a very clean sort of parkland course. It does look like it fits into our 800 by 350 area, and we'll talk about how you've managed to do that in a bit. It looks like the focus is very much on the golf. We've got some 3 ponds, which hopefully factor in quite nicely. Alright. First hole. I can see that you've done some of the mounds and things on the left hand side. The first thing that really comes to mind is just this looks very empty. Like it just needs a bit more something filling it. Bunker sculpting it's okay. You've got your raised backs here, but certainly this side, your bunker texture is getting a bit close to the top of the lip. Yeah, I guess the bunkers are just kind of there if you miss a shot, because our ideal line is playing way away from them anyway. Because if I play it, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the bunker placement, because if I'm in them, I'm already giving myself a bad angle anyway, so it's just further punishing a bad shot, which, yeah. Sculpting on the green. The volcano, I do understand. This is, it just strikes me as very severe for the type of course you're building. If you look at everything around, it's very flat, and then we've just got this one super manufactured hill. Now, I do like the green slopes that you've got on there, and the 2 little mounds are interesting and will allow us ways to get to different pins. I think you probably want a little bit more green slopes in and amongst those. Like trying to use this as a backstop, I'm still having to be like inch perfect, and then I think you could use just a little bit more space either side, maybe a couple more boxes of green, but might be wrong, might play. Oh, that's not a good swing. We're going to be down at the bottom. Let's move the mouse. But like, certainly not necessarily a difficult par, I don't think. Right, unless I putt really badly. Cue putting really badly. That's alright. Yeah, I mean, it feels very empty is the main thing, and I think when you look at really good, clean parkland courses in this game, like the CSU Golfer ones, Terry Grayson's done a few. Cart putt, Matt Fritsch does them. Either you have to substitute something for planting, whether it's your cart paths, whether it's your bunker style, whether it's where you put the trees. Yeah, I don't like this tee shot much. Although we've got the fairway here, it's pretty much unhittable unless I'm landing in the rough, which I'm tempted to try to do because I'd rather hit from the rough here than lay way back here. But even then, the landing zone we've protected loads, and we run out, and it's just, this feels very much like it's forcing me into, you are going to lay up here, and you are like, right angled doglegs are tough to do well. And it's partly because of this, like if you're hitting dead across the fairway, like all of this is not an option. Here is not an option. Hitting a partial between these bunkers is kind of an option, but like, what's the gain? Like the sensible way is to play like this, but I don't know, it just feels like I'm being forced, therefore I'm going to choose not to do it. And like, I get that we have found the fairway, but that's purely by luck. Same thing with this green. The sculpting's just like, it's very harsh compared to what's around it. I think tone your sculpting down, and that will help a lot, because part of it is also now this green is now very blind from where I'm at. So a bit of loft. Smash the putt and pulled it. But yeah, I think you need something, cart paths, underbrush, like even just a really dense tree line to block out the empty views across the plot would work well. Okay, this one works. This one works better because it's still a 90-degree dogleg, but you have at least got the hazards placed in a way that's almost cape-like. Where now I would far prefer this if you'd made the whole thing diagonal rather than either you go here or you go here or you go here. If we go on the diagonal, then suddenly you're asking me a far more difficult question, particularly in a video game where we're going to assume that this is sort of carryable in certain conditions. In a video game, if you give people a diagonal line, then they have to make more of a nuanced decision, and you'll trick them a bit more often. Plus, it's generally better playability-wise anyway. I do like with this one that okay, it's a bad tee shot, but I could have just hit driver straight and I wasn't punished on that. Yeah, again, your green is just the sculpting around the green is a little severe for my tastes. The fact that we're going, what are we, 15 feet up to the green? That's pretty severe, and the fact that all of it happens within the 10 feet before the green. And I think this could work well if you had more hills around the site other than where the greens are. Okay. I'm trying to work out what the mound is there for. So I think, I guess to protect the next tee box? I don't know. It feels a little out of place. I think a lot of this is just the emptiness as well. Like when you have these big features, like if I've got one hill that you put in on a flat plot, I'm trying to work out why it's there. And I guess it's kind of providing a tiny bit of a backstop. I think bump these slopes up, make them a bit more. I think you could really amp up some of the helping slopes on your greens rather than necessarily always punitive. But yeah. Oh, that was par 5. Okay, that makes more sense. I was going to say as a par 4 that was tough. That's a solid fault. Par 4.5. Okay, definitely amped up the tiers on this one, and like yeah, we do have some slopes that are going to help us. I think the bunkering makes more sense here. Certainly, you can tidy up your spline work a little bit. That turn is quite tight, which yeah we can get in real life, but I think we can make it a little neater. Same thing. I feel it feels like every green has been a volcano of sorts so far. It would be nice to see a little bit of variety on the green sites, like down in a dell or just not always raised. That's a bit much. Okay, we have back-to-back par 3s, and true to form, having said I'd like a slightly different green site, we have got one, which is nice. The elevation again feels. Sorry, I'm kind of repeating myself on the same thing, but even though we're hitting down from the tee, it still feels very forced elevation change because the rest of the plot is so flat, and then we've got these big hills that we're just hitting up to or down. I think if you look at really hilly properties, what they do so well often is how they'll route holes along sides of hills so that it's not always just up then down then up then down. I think that would have helped. I like the green here a lot more. I would have loved you to give us a bit more green here, because I think that then makes this pin much more accessible, because this pin, which I'm assuming is there, you're asking for a carry of 220 on the nose and then riding that backstop and coming back, whereas if you bring that all the way around, then you're asking people, well, you can land it there, but you're going to risk the water a bit more, whereas here you're still, like, the water may as well not be in play for this pin, even though it's tucked quite close to it, because we're still just trying to land it on a backstop. But I do like the long par 3 with kind of relatively friendly green. And like Yeah, the sort of punch bowl slopes work really well on that, because that's an awful shot that should have gone nowhere near. So I think this green's definitely your best so far in terms of just concept as well. And I don't think it's yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence that you had far more helping slopes on that green. In fact, all of them helping rather than hurting. Okay. Yeah, sculpting on this just kind of shows off a lot of the sculpting that we've been discussing. Like if this hill had been smoother and this hill had been smoother, then it might look it might look a bit more natural. And then yeah, blind second shot is kind of I don't I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure it's intentional, I don't think it's meant to be. But I do think it's a product of you having that water there as well. And the lake doesn't, I wouldn't say really adds that much, or it doesn't add anything strategically. But because you've got the lake here, you have to have this at a certain height, which is causing us to be blind here on. I mean, maybe it was meant to be blind anyway with the mound. Potentially. I, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It a part of this I think is the water feels unnatural where it is. Like the lake 20 feet above me standing here just doesn't quite feel right. And I know you can get those, so I'm not a massive stickler for it, but I think that's causing part of your sculpting issues that you've got. Green, relatively simple with the tiers that you've got, but again I do like that you are giving us some help if we're like if people are looking to use the slopes to help them, there are some there, which makes a difference. It's not a good part. And yeah, seemed alright. So anyway, there we are. I mean, I think the main comments you probably know, it's like the ideas are there, it's just smoothing out your sculpting, it's filling out the space a bit more, whether it be planting, whether it be cart paths, just neatening it up. You can do really good country club style courses in this game, but they do take as much time to plant. Maybe not as much, but pretty close as some of the more rugged ones. And you have to be really careful with where you're planting and how you're making everything feel realistic and not empty. And that's certainly a real skill. Definitely look at Matt F's courses. CSU Golfers stuff is amazing for this. He's your number one actually. So Shaker Valley, Conservatory Club, those styles of courses, and then the Terry Grayson ones are great as well. But I mean, 2 under. I mean, there's a couple of tough slopes there, but it seemed to play fair. So yeah, well done and good luck in the contest.